What's up, everyone? Welcome to another Wednesday night edition of Mythic Conversations. Like every week, I am your host, Jeremy Gerard. I'm a Mythic Legions collector and customizer. I also have the distinct privilege of being the digital marketing manager for Four Horsemen Studios, which means that all of the content that you see at sourcehorseman.com, the official website for all things Four Horsemen Studios, all things Legions, is content that I help to bring you. If you want to see more of my work, including some of the stuff we're going to look at tonight, you can certainly follow me on my Instagram page. That's at Mythic Customs. I'm also here every Wednesday night live at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time doing this show, Mythic Conversations, the weekly show that, like I said, covers all things Legions. Definitely a lot of the weeks we focus on Mythic Legions customizing because that is the angle that I really come at this from in a big way. But we've expanded. We've definitely, especially lately, right? We've done a lot more different shows that aren't specifically customizing focused. I've had a lot of guests on in the last few weeks. And certainly there's been a lot of news to talk about, right? Last week, we dropped the incredibly cool announcement of the Sir Gerard figure that's going to be making its debut at Legions Con next week. Yeah, Legions Con is next week. Mind blowing. I'm super excited for that. So there's been a lot of news lately, and certainly as we end this year, I don't think that news is going to slow down. There's going to be a ton of stuff to talk about right here on the weekly Legion show. So tonight, what we're going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about the news, about the stuff going on, kind of get you ready for, everything that's happening next week and what that's going to look like. But then we're going to segue into the conversation of the week, which is all about creating custom kits. So specifically, I've got some really cool stuff that I'm super excited to share with you. I've got some new stuff to show you that I haven't shown anywhere before. All of this stuff is going to be making its debut at Legions Con. I'm super excited for that and to share it with you this evening. It is called Mythic Conversations because I'm hoping this is a conversation. There is a chat window here on YouTube. If you've got any questions, hit me up in the chat. I do my best throughout the evening to stop babbling every once in a while and to hit those questions up to see what people are talking about and answer them when I can. The one questions I can never answer, by the way, is when is this coming out, or is this coming out, or stuff like that. Can't answer any of those. So I apologize. I will unfortunately skip those questions. Mickey saying, hi, this is my first time watching live. Happy to be here. Well, Mickey, thank you very much for joining us live. Always love when people do that because we can engage, we can talk to each other a little bit, but certainly those who cannot join live, who catch it on replay, I love you too. Nate, hello. Chris, hello. Josh, absolutely. Josh says, anyone else trying to control the impulse to Legion build the new mouse sculpture? Yeah, go ahead. Legion build it because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm going to show you some cool stuff with that tonight. I'm including a secret that's not the only mouse head that I did. I've got others. I've actually done a few other mice customs already. And Josh, I will absolutely tell you, I am addicted. I'm 5 in. I've already done 5 mouse customs, and I've only shown you the one. So absolutely with you there, Josh. I'm building it as well. I'm army building my Legion of Mice. Walter, nice to have you here. Star, Joe, everybody. Eric, thank you very much. Trevor, for joining. Dave, Just going through the list of everyone saying hello. So I'm saying hello to all of you. So news, everything happening. All Stars 4. So All Stars 4 has started to ship the all-ins, which talked about this before, but the all-ins are pre-packaged at the factory to make them easier to ship. So they come pre-packed. All that the warehouse has to do is slap a label on it and off it goes. So while they've never said that all-ins will always ship first, it is traditionally something that they've done at the studio, at the warehouse, to get all of those out as quickly as possible and make some room. So All Stars 4 all-ins started showing up this past weekend. If you were online on Saturday, you may have seen that I did an impromptu live stream here on my YouTube channel, as well as on the Mythic Legions Cabal. Did a live stream. I did a live unboxing of All Stars 4. Kind of did a little LBC Lazy Boy custom right on that broadcast and stuff. Had a lot of fun. If you missed it, it is still saved in the channel, so you can certainly go back and watch that as well. The rest of the All Stars figures will be shipping out pretty soon. If you ordered an all-in plus other stuff, you very likely got your all-in, or if you ordered more than one, your all-ins first, while the rest of the stuff will ship later. Next big piece of news, obviously moving forward, Mythic Weekend is literally next week. A week from today, I will be in Four Horsemen Studios. I will be in New Jersey at Four Horsemen Studios. This show will be live from the studio. That is the kickoff for Mythic Weekend, or maybe even the Four Horsemen O'Clock show that happens a few hours before I go live. Maybe that'll be the official kickoff, right? I'll be there for that too. So I'm super excited. There is a post on Source Horseman that has the full schedule of what's going on. But in a nutshell, Wednesday night, Mythic Conversations live from the studio to kick things off. Thursday is a private event, intern for a day, but I'm sure you're going to hear some of your fellow Legions fans talking about that experience. Friday is the epic G-Con Poxis show. So from 11 to 5 on the Four Horsemen's YouTube channel, we are going to unveil the new Poxis wave. If you've ever seen G-Con in the past, you probably know what to expect. It's a 6-hour presentation where it's going to be interviews with guests in the studio, different members of Four Horsemen Studios, different collaborators and people that they work with, and friends of the studio at Four Horsemen Studios. It is not a public event, so it's not something that you can come to the studio and visit, but you can tune in live and be part of that. Hear all the interviews, see the reveals, and that reveal special culminates in the unveiling of the new wave, and the pre-order for Mythic Legions Poxis will begin that day at 5 p.m. Super excited, and that brings us to the weekend. Next weekend, I will be in Wayne, New Jersey on Saturday for ToyCon. ToyCon's a great event run by my partner, Joe Viteri. He puts on a wonderful show. I'm excited to just go and hang out and meet people. I'm not going to be working, so I won't be behind. Well, I'll be behind the four-horse table, but I can bounce around. I won't be the only one there, so I can bounce around and meet people and talk to people. And then Sunday's the big day. Sunday is Legions Con. That same building as ToyCon, so it's 2 events happening side by side. Super excited to see everyone there. I am seeing a lot of people asking questions about what time should I get there? Doors open at 9 for Legions Con on Sunday. I saw people saying, if I get there at 8 o'clock or 8:45, will there be a line? Yeah, there's going to be a long line. That's one thing to be aware of, is you're going to wait in line. There's just no way around it. We're going to do everything we can to get you in as quickly as possible. But I mean, it's only so many people can get in at once. So the cool thing is you're going to literally be in line with lots and lots of other Legions fans. You may be in line with people that you've interacted with online but never actually met. So take that opportunity, hang out, make some new friends, or introduce yourself to some friends that you already have that you've never met in person. Trust me, the line will go super fast. It's like when you're in Disney, right? When you're in Disney and you're waiting on one of those ride queues and it seems to go by faster because there's tons of cool stuff to see, right? You're looking around and there's all this really cool things. That's super cool. That's intentional. That makes the line seem like it's going faster because it gives you stuff to do. You're not just sitting there waiting. Like, have you ever been to a water park, right? Water parks, it seems like it takes forever because there's literally nothing to do. You're in the sun. It's hot as hell. You just want to get on that water slide and have that 30-second ride. At Disney, they do a great job of making those lines not seem as long or the waits not seem as long. So unfortunately, we can't set up a Disney-like ride queue for you. I wish we could. Who knows? Maybe in the future at Legion's Con. But we can gather some awesome community, an awesome community of Legions fans. They will be in line with you, so enjoy that. Another tip, bring cash. I mentioned this last week. Bring lots of cash. A lot of the retailers are not going to be taking cards. There is an ATM on site, but it has broken down in the past or run out of money. So cash is king when it comes to toy shows. If you're coming both days, if you're coming Saturday and Sunday, there is a combo pass for $25. You can get in to ToyCon. You can get in to Legion's Con. You can get in both days of ToyCon, and you can get into Legion's Con on Sunday. That is a great, great value. If you do that and you go to ToyCon on Saturday, don't go crazy. There's going to be a ton of cool stuff to see and buy. Save some money, budget some money for all of the awesome exhibitors and vendors that are going to be there on Sunday at Legion's Con, because they're going to have some awesome stuff. A lot of show debut pieces are going to be there. I'm going to show you some of those show debut pieces this evening on Mythic Conversations. All right, I'm going to go back to the comments here for a little bit. I'm going to swing back. A lot of engagement tonight. Always love to see that. Thank you very much for being a part of this every week. When are we going to see the guns, Jeremy? Are you asking me to take my sweatshirt off, Nate? I'm cold. It's cold down here today. I'm going to keep the sweatshirt on today. Is one of the Mouse Warriors named Mighty Mouse? Not necessarily. If no spoos, how about Cosmic Mice from Mars or Meese from Mars? Yeah, cannot wait for Mythic Weekend, Nate. Jason saying I'm going to have to drive to Legion's Con from Wisconsin. It's crazy, but I'm not kind of crazy. Dude, Walter's not driving, but he's flying in all the way from California. Emil is flying in all the way from Sweden. Not only is he flying in from Sweden, but he's flying into Michigan. Like, seriously, okay. He could have flown into like New York or New Jersey and been right there. Emil is flying into Michigan so he can hook up with Lord Steven and Pete McCarthy and I think Nate actually. And they're all driving like 12 hours from Michigan to New Jersey. Like, I really wish they could live stream that travel, that drive, that trip. Because I'm sure it is going to be hijinks, absolute hijinks. Nate, will the line be outdoors? Unfortunately, it will be. If we could get you in the building, there wouldn't be a line. So the line will be outdoors. That is obviously one thing we cannot control. It could be raining. It likely will be cold. A lot of people, I will say this, people have asked me what time they should line up. Look, this is a personal decision. I will tell you, at ToyCon in May, I believe the first person in line, he got there at 3:30 a.m. Now, I am in no way saying you should get in line at 3:30 a.m. That is crazy. It's pretty cool. Like, I respect that dude, but it's still crazy. The way I look at it is this. If you get there at, say, 5 o'clock, okay, you get there at 5 o'clock, there's probably not going to be a lot of people in line. So you're going to get an early spot. However, you're going to wait in line for 4 hours before the doors even open. Is that better? Is waiting in line in the cold for 4 hours better getting there at 5 versus, say, getting there at 7? If you get there at 7, you're 2 hours before showtime. Now, you may have to wait a bit longer to get in, but what's the difference of waiting in line for 4 hours before the doors open, or say 2 hours before they open, plus maybe another hour or so after they open? That's a decision you have to make for yourself. If you really want to be one of the first ones in the door, yeah, get there crazy early. I guarantee you there's going to be other people there. That all being said, we're going to try to get you in as quickly as possible. People have asked, because a lot of people have heard about the May Toy Con show and how crazy it was. I'm going to be, okay, frankly, that's the only time that's ever happened. There have been a lot of other Toy Cons. They've never had a line of that length. I do think part of that was the unique combination of it really being the first show after COVID. You know, a lot of people were just itching to get back out there. Four Horsemen Studios brought out their largest display, their largest array of pieces ever at a Toy Con, ever at a show. And it was crazy. They had a ton of stuff there. So I think the combination of things really led to that. The reality is, at that show, people got in the building fairly quickly. The problem was the line getting to the Four Horsemen booth, because we can get people in the door. It's a big space. You can get people in the door. But then when you get to the Four Horsemen's table, it's 3 8-foot tables. So people get there, and as they're shopping and they're grabbing stuff and they're talking and they're checking out, that all takes time. So while the people are in front of the table doing that, other people are in line waiting. So we can get you in the door usually pretty quickly, but that line might take a little bit longer. We do have a plan this time to kind of change around. The Four Horsemen's table is going to be in a different spot. By the way, they're going to be at ToyCon on Saturday. So at ToyCon on Saturday, there will be a Four Horsemen table set up selling merchandise. And then on Sunday, we are going to move the table into the other room where ToyCon is. So they will be there both days. But we do have a plan for how we're going to snake the line to hopefully not block off other exhibitors and stuff like that, other vendors. But there will absolutely be a line either way. Let's see. No hot tubs, Joe says. Joe Vassapolo, I'm with you, my brother. No hot tubs. Good question. Star says, with the success of Cosmic Legions and Mythic Legions, do you see this as the beginning of a renaissance of independent IPs? I love Cosmic Legions, but I've been waning my interest in established franchises I've loved for years. So it's interesting you mentioned that, Star. I love the unique IPs, even something like Mezco. So I collect Mezco, and as great as their licensed IP stuff, like, look, everyone is freaking out for the Mezco Conan right now, right? That's like the hot figure, Mezco Conan. It didn't really do a whole lot for me because I'm not a super big Conan fan. I've honestly never read any of the original books, so I don't have a strong connection. I grew up with D&D, but I never grew up with Conan. Knew who he was, knew who the character was, just not part of my nostalgia. So the figure itself, as great as it looks, doesn't do much for me. Just like a lot of their Marvel and DC stuff, as great as they look, and I've bought them in the past and then gotten them in hand and realized I don't really need this in my collection. However, their original IP stuff, their Rumble Society, absolutely love that. Clearly, I love Mythic and Cosmic Legions. So I do think that there is a bit of a renaissance in that. One of the things we're doing at Legions Con this year, and we're hoping to expand in subsequent years, is a showcase for independent toy creators. So at this year's show, we're going to have Plunderlings. The team behind Plunderlings are going to be there. Super successful independent line that was done on Kickstarter. They're going to be there with stuff to showcase, some of their new stuff to showcase, and stuff to sell. Creative Beast Studios, they put out those awesome like Beasts of the Mesozoic figures, those dinosaurs. They're going to be there as well. Chris Gorich is going to be there. Everyone knows Chris from Four Horsemen Studios, William Smithsonian, but Chris actually does some of his own lines as well. He's going to be there showcasing some of his new pieces. We've got a couple others as well, and we're hoping to expand this in future years. we absolutely think that this is a great time for independent toy creators. It's not easy to do. A lot of people, may look at others doing it on Kickstarter saying, hey, I want to get into this. It is hard to do. But there's obviously it's super rewarding as well. So we are doing what we can to help support them. Great question, Star. Okay, let's see. Emil will be ruined by the time he gets to New Jersey. I know. Okay, I'm just going through all of the questions now before we move on. Yeah, Walter saying we had hundreds of people. We moved them as fast as we can. That's the thing too. You don't want it to just be a conveyor belt where people, part of what they're doing is they're going to mingle, they're going to talk to everybody. That is one of the nice things about ToyCon as well, because even as crazy as it was at May, once the lines died down, like after lunch, you could easily walk right up to the Four Horsemen booth and spend as much time as you wanted talking to any of the creators or members of the studio. So it's super, super accessible, and you got 2 days to do it between Legions Con and ToyCon. Let's see. Awesome. So let's go on to the topic at hand, and certainly I can answer questions as we go. Creating custom kits. That's what I wanted to talk about tonight. A lot of the stuff that I've been showing this past week or so, couple weeks leading up to Legions Con, there's been a lot of planning that has gone into this buildup, both between the work that I do with Legion Shop and the work that I do with Team Wolf King at Wolf King Customs. A lot of parts that I've worked on, that I have been working on for years, that I held off for the right moment. Now is that right moment. We're unveiling them at Legions Con. The reaction so far has been super, super positive, and I want to talk about some of those today. But on top of just talking about the parts and showing the parts, if you've watched my show for a while, I do these types of shows somewhat frequently. I love to talk about the creative process. I love to dig underneath and to show the development process, to talk about why certain things were done. Hopefully you enjoy that as well, because I'm going to talk about that tonight. So the first thing that I'm going to show is the mouse kit, right? So on Monday of this week, I showed off this little guy here, Sir Moose, this little mouse knight character who I absolutely I just love this character. I love this creation. I showed him with 2 different heads. So in addition to this mouse head, he's also got a knight head. I've got some better pictures I'm going to bring up in a few moments. The reaction to this figure has been incredibly, incredibly positive. So I'm going to take you back and I'm going to talk to you about how and why I did what I did. I will tell you right now, these parts will make their debut at Legions Con next week. So you will be able to go to Legions Con. The mouse parts are going to be at the Wolf King Customs table. They're going to have unpainted kits, unpainted pieces, unpainted. I think at the show they're only going to have full kits. So it's unpainted kits. They're going to have some painted kits as well. Additionally, next Saturday, the 13th, Wolf King Customs will be doing a pre-order sale. So if you can't get out to Legions Con, they're going to be doing one of their regular sales as well. And those parts will be available for pre-order during that period. So when I decided I wanted to do the mouse kit, Greg saying, not a fan of the animal characters, but for some reason I need that tiny mouse dude. So when I decided I wanted to do mice, it was actually over a year ago that we started talking about mice. It was after the success of, the Kitsune parts that I did, and then the badger and everything, I started thinking about what other animals I would like to do. Clearly, I enjoy the anthropomorphic characters, the animal characters. So I like the idea of doing a mouse. I wanted to create a kit for it. And that's a big part of what we're going to talk about tonight, this idea of kits. Because if I go all the way back to those first parts I created, those Kitsune parts, those parts have been incredibly popular. Like so much more popular than I ever would have imagined that they are. They're available at every single Wolf King custom sale. They still sell. It amazes me that everyone that wants one doesn't already have one, but still they sell really, really well. And I'm incredibly appreciative of everyone that has purchased and customized those parts. And I think part of the strength, especially early on with those parts, was the fact that there were very, very clear builds that you could do with them. And what I mean by that is when those parts were released well over a year ago now, this was that era where a lot of figures were readily available on Big Bad Toy Store, including the Elf Ranger, including the Goblin Legion Builder, including Thistlethorn. It seems crazy now that Thistlethorn and Elf Ranger were just readily in stock and easy to grab, but they absolutely were. So when we did those customs, it kind of was a kit, right? Because there were two different heads and there was the Kitsune tail. So there was the regular Kitsune fox head, there was the insert that went inside of the Ranger's hood, and then there was the tail. And some of the first figures that we showed, the first builds that we showed, were the Elf Ranger body with that fox head and tail, really kind of making something similar, reminiscent of the Robin Hood character from Disney's Robin Hood, the fox version of that. So people really kind of dug that. But then I painted the fox heads, I painted them black, and I put them on Goblin Legion Builder bodies. I painted them white, and I put it on a Thalon Frostbow because that was available then as well. I painted it orange and put it on a Thistlethorn. People liked the fact that they could get these parts, whether they bought them painted and popped them on one of these figures, or bought them unpainted and used one of those figures or something else. That idea of a kit going with an existing figure that's readily available was super, super strong. And it's something that both at Legion Shop and Wolf King Customs that we really try to think about. When we build these parts, we really try to say like, hey, what base bodies would these go on? In some cases, the reason we hold things back and don't release them is because there aren't bodies readily available. The mouse parts, when I decided I wanted to do this over a year ago, I wanted to put it on the Goblin Legion Builder body, but I did not want to just do a mouse head and slap it on a goblin. That was going to make a figure size that was equivalent to other figures we already had in the line. The goblins, I use those for my Kitsune foxes. Mice are, by definition, very small. I wanted these to be as small as possible. So what I did was I started to think about the engineering of the figure. And I started to say, how can I make these figures smaller while still using the core of the figure? The torso, the arms, the legs, or at least the upper arms and upper legs. I'm going to show you what I did. This is something that I've never shown publicly, but this was the first demo build of the mouse parts. So I did this to show, like, to basically be a proof of concept. And that, obviously you can see snag there to give you proportions of what the size of a regular goblin would be. But that build on the side of him, that actually is the Goblin Legion Builder body with the lower legs and feet removed, the lower gauntlets and hands removed. And what I did was I got some Lord of the Rings, like Uruk-hai feet, drilled a hole in them, and I plugged them in to the knee pegs. So those knee pegs that would normally plug into the lower legs, I plugged them in there. The hands on this little demo are actually from a Mezco figure. Once again, I kind of drilled them out a little bit, made them fit, popped them on just to show this proof of concept. This was one of the earliest pieces that I did to show both Walter DeMarco from Mass Customs and Len LaGuardia. I wanted to show them this because I wanted to say, like, guys, this is what I'm going for. Because it was hard for me to say, like, hey, I basically said to Walter is who I work with very, very frequently for digital sculpting. And I said, Walter, I want feet that plug into the knees and hands that plug into the elbows. So if you think about that phrase, you want feet where the knees are, that's like weird. So I needed to show them a visual representation of what I was actually going for. And that's what you see right here. So that was the first kind of demo. I'll show you the pictures I shared this week of the Mouse Knight. These were the first pictures here. So in these photos, you can see that build, and you can see where the hand, and I'm going to zoom in here, you can see how the hand just plugs right in to that lower, that lower arm, and then the feet just actually plug right into those knee ports there. And let me just do this for a second. I can show you, I've got some right here. You've got just these little tiny hands, and there's just a little port in the back. These plug right in. Now, the hands are a challenge, and this is something you should be aware of. And it's something that, as we make custom parts, it's some of the challenges we deal with. These are not factory produced injection, molded plastic pieces. The actual hands that come on Mythic Legions figures and lots of action figures, they are very, very soft and pliable. So you can, put a sword in and it stretches a little bit, but it grips it really, really hard. They do make flexible resin, and we worked with a lot of different flex mixes to try to get it. The challenge is these hands are so small that the amount of material that you have right there in the hand was so little material that what was happening was the flex was just breaking. As you tried to use it, it was degrading and it was breaking. This is one of the things that we do. When we put out parts, we spend a lot of time stress testing them, making sure that they're going to be okay. So ultimately, what we had to decide to do was go with regular kind of resin. We opened up the grip a little bit. As a customizer, whether you are a true customizer or whether you're just buying custom parts to pop onto figures, one of the things that I think we do have to remember is these are not factory produced parts. These are intended to be used. They might have to have some modification done to them. Had a conversation recently, and I did a video recently about using blue tack on the necks of custom figures when you get custom heads, because I actually heard a number of people questioning, how do you attach the heads? I even heard some complaints, some people that are like, oh, you shouldn't have to do that. And I know there are people out there that love pop fit heads. I think they're awesome. They're very, very satisfying. However, there's a legit reason why a lot of artists, a lot of 3D printers and creators don't do pop fit. If you want more about that, you can watch the video. But it made me realize that I think we've gotten to the point where we've made it so easy for people to use these parts that when some of these parts require a little bit of extra effort to use, people get freaked out. You shouldn't be freaked out. Part of customizing, part of this aspect of the hobby might be doing a tiny, tiny bit of work. So in this particular case, the tiny bit of work or the tiny bit of compromise is just not every weapon's going to fit in those hands. You've got to be even. I showed actually with it having that sword in hand, that Mythic Legion's knife. The reality is the bottom, like circular type piece of that hilt, that's really hard to get in these hands. If you just snap that off, and it literally snaps right off, it makes it so much easier. You can slide it right in because it becomes a really straight kind of handle for the knife. Still looks awesome in the hand. So that's something to consider. But that was one of the challenges we had. In terms of the feet are really, really similar. Just these little feet that plug into the knees. And I saw someone ask, I should say, to show the articulation of the mouse. So it's almost kind of like a 5-point articulation. Actually, it's more than 5, but the legs still move up and down. Obviously, the legs move, the thighs move on this as well. The foot itself is just a peg into the hole. So you can still move the foot. You get not really a rock on it. You can just move it kind of around because it's just a round peg. That's how the arms, obviously the hands are going to rotate. The hands fit pretty snugly, but one of the things we've noticed, we make parts for these figures. We've noticed that different figures, their parts aren't always exactly the same size. I have 2.0 figures that, even plugging 2.0 figures into 2.0 figures, sometimes things are looser than others. So with these hands here, to plug them in, you might have to, this one plugs right in super nice. Others I've done a tiny, tiny little bit of blue tack on that, pop them in, works like a champ. Let me check out some of the questions that we have here. So I see people asking questions and answering stuff. Having a kit to adjust the size of the figures is an awesome idea. Now we need extenders as well. That's a cool idea. So even making them bigger. But yeah, that's really what I wanted to do. Like I said, thank you, Dorklear, saying that he likes that strategy. I really, like I said, I wanted to do something that people were going to be able to use. You know, you can buy, if you buy these custom parts, if you buy these painted parts, you can, with a little bit of heat, remove the lower legs, the lower arms on the goblin, right? You plug in these lower hands, you plug in these lower feet. For the head, you can either use the mouse head. We've also got the super fun knight head. Now, the knight head doesn't come with the plume, but we made it so just a standard Mythic Legions plume plugs right in there, and you can make the mouse knight. Let me show you the mouse knight, some better photos of that with his mouse helmet on. So that's with the mouse helmet. That was one of the things I thought would be fun. I wanted to make this like a really noble mouse knight. And I know a lot of people compared it right out of the gate to Mouse Guard and to Redwall. Amazingly, I've never read Redwall. I've never read Mouse Guard. I was really inspired. There's a book by an author named Kate DiCamello called The Tale of Despero. And in that, the mouse is not a knight, but he's very into chivalry, and he's a noble knight. He actually uses like a sewing needle as a sword. So that combined with Reepicheep from the Chronicles of Narnia, those were the two kinds of characters that, you know, I was thinking about when I kind of conceived this and talked with Walter DeMarco about the sculpture itself. But it was an interesting day because, as I said, we started working on this over a year ago when we finally got these parts, and we decided to unveil them because I wanted to have something really special for Legions Con, something really unique that I hadn't seen anyone else attempt. I haven't seen anyone else attempt a totally new body build like this, like parts that take an existing body and give you a whole new scale. That, to me, I thought was worth doing. So I wanted to do that at Legions Con, and the fact that the Goblin Legion builders are readily available right now at Big Bad Toy Store just made this absolutely perfect timing to unleash this. So that's really all that is. That is a Goblin Legion builder with those parts added. All I did, the one thing you might have to do is paint the neck. The neck comes green. I painted the neck a grayish color to match the rest of the mouse knight. Also has this fun little shield with kind of that mouse emblem in there. So I do have a few more pictures to show on this. Let's see what I've got here. Okay, yeah, so this is just another photo of the mouse showing some of the posability. It is, like I said, it's because it's a Mythic Legions figure, it does still retain actually a fair amount of posability. And because those pieces plug in, you could glue them if you wanted. I just use, if needed, I use a little bit of blue tack just because blue tack allows you to, you know, continue moving. You don't have to not move the pieces. It's not stuck there. So I like that as well. So we've got the regular mouse head here, and then we've got the helmeted head there. That plume, I just glued that right in. Super easy. See what the questions are. Rich saying, I need to get one of these kits. Super cool. Greg saying, I like seeing the behind the scenes stuff. I've got more stuff to show too. It should be fun. This is a lot like Planetary Dog Toys werewolf add-ons. Yeah, I mean, that is very much a kit. What they did recently with the Damascus prints, where, you know, they came up with a bunch of different parts that can go together on one figure. It's a great, I love doing that. I did the same thing with the Akupara turtle figures. When I created the Akupara parts, it was multiple heads, helmets for them, multiple weapons, utilizing the turtle shell shields that already exist in the line. So I loved that, thinking about kits, not just a single head or a single weapon. those are cool too. And I do plenty of those, but I really like this idea of building kits. And to me, building a kit that people say, oh, I totally see how this works. I grab this base figure, I put these pieces on, I've got this custom. I think that's great. I think it's also great because it allows other customizers to take those same parts. They may say, you know what, that's cool. I want to do something totally different. I love when I create a kit and I show a couple different ways it could be used, and then someone hits me back with something I totally didn't expect them to do. That is incredibly rewarding as an artist and creator, to see other artists and creatives be able to use the parts and riff on them in that way. Mickey says, I got myself some blue tack after watching that video. Awesome. It's, like I said, it's a game changer. It's funny because you may think like, oh, it's a cheap way to do it. Do they literally do it at the studio? Like those prototypes you see for all those Cosmic Legions prototypes, those are held together with blue tack and glue because they're not real figures yet. They're all prototype parts. So what we're doing here as customizers is bridging that gap between production figures and what is like prototype parts. The prototype parts at the studio are digitally sculpted, digitally printed. They're 3D printed. So they're really using parts similar to what we are doing as customizers. Emilio saying, I wonder if you can create a rubber ring add-on to make it fit more snug. People have done that. So Mike from Figure Fix has an adapter. My Action Figure Customs used to have an adapter. The honest answer, Emilio, is the amount of engineering that goes into it. You're solving a problem that is easily solved by blue tack. Blue tack is like $2. You have enough blue tack to probably do 200 figures or 100 figures or whatever for $2. Would an adapter be even cooler? Yeah, sure. But the amount of engineering, production, doing all of that, like the amount that would go into solving a problem that, I mean, I've got literally, if you look through my collection here, there's a ton of figures with blue tack on there next. You would never be able to tell. And like I did in my video the other day, you know, it's not going to fall off. The blue tack is not going to fall off. It's pretty solid. So do not fear the blue tack. Use the blue tack. Yeah, Joe likes rescue tape. Rescue tape, it's like a rubber tape that only sticks to itself. Great for filling loose joint holes. He's been banging that rescue tape drum for years. He loves that stuff. Super, super useful for the specific instances. Joe he's turned me on to that. Very, very helpful. Mickey saying, I haven't heated a figure to remove parts yet. Which is better, hot water or hair dryer? Here's my opinion on that. If I am doing unpainted, well, I shouldn't say unpainted. If I am doing factory painted parts, either hot air or hot water is better. I like hot water because it's fast. I heat up a mug for like 2.5 minutes. I drop the parts in, let them soak for 30 seconds, pop it apart. Love doing that. Put it in the fridge so it cools off. Love doing that. If I was doing any custom painted pieces, whether I'm removing them or popping them back on, I don't like to submerge custom painted pieces. Even if they're sealed, I don't like to submerge those in hot water. So for those, I use a hair dryer, a blow dryer. That is really where I go. Ultimately, either one will work. That is really the only pro tip I would give you if you're doing custom painted parts. And this is usually reattaching. You're reattaching. So say that I get a figure, right? And I dip it, I bathe it in water, hot water, pull all the pieces apart, do all my custom paint jobs. Now I got all these custom painted pieces. I need to reassemble it. That's where I use heat. I use a blow dryer for those. It's slow because I'm blow drying one piece at a time and then plugging it in, one piece, plugging it in. But I find that you have more control over how much heat you give it, and it doesn't damage the paint jobs. Would the mouse kit work with Malfar? It absolutely works with Malfar because Malfar is a Goblin Legion builder body. He comes with hooves instead of feet, but that's fine because you're replacing the feet anyway. So really what you're using is just the torso piece, those upper legs and upper arms. Malphar is exactly the same. The one thing I did do on this, by the way, is, oh, you know what? Let me take this off. The that loin piece there is, normally a little bit longer. I just took an X-Acto blade and sliced it. The sculpture itself has, layers to it, like, armored layers. Just follow those layers and you can slice that down and it still looks really, really good. It'll leave some like white plastic underneath it. Get a little black paint, touch it up. You'll never know that you sliced it. I love, love, love doing that. Awesome. I feel like I have one more mice thing to show before I move on to the next kit. I think I actually have a few mice ones. Oh, yeah. So this is actually a little bit of a tease, not a tease, but a little bit of an additional reveal. So these are the 3D renders that Walter sent me once he finished. So in here, you can see we've got the basic mouse sculpture at top, and then we've got the helmeted knight at the bottom. That hooded mouse, I'm not releasing that at Legions Con. I'm holding that back. I will have some at Legions Con to show how they look, but that one will actually be available on Legion Shop down the road a little bit. But I did want to show all of you, because I've heard a lot of people saying, oh, I want to build these mice. I want to get a bunch of them to build out a bunch of different characters. I wanted you to see how it looked, that there is actually another one coming as well. One of the customs I'm going to hopefully show next week uses that hooded mouse to create a field mouse that I turned into a ranger. So a field mouse ranger character. I thought that would be a lot of fun. So that's a little bit of a sneak peek there, that you can see the additional mouse head that I haven't shown before tonight. Yep, Joe agrees with me. Hot water for unpainted, hair dryer for painted. Star, would I foresee the Horsemen putting out figures that are unpainted for customizing? We've got something that we're talking about that is similar. Hopefully look for an announcement in 2022 on something about that. Let's see. Yep. It's screaming ghosts and goblins. Yeah, I love that. That wasn't an inspiration, but I know what you mean, and I love that style helmet. I think it's must. Jonathan saying, how much for the kit? I believe the full unpainted kit, which is a pair of hands, a pair of feet, the knight helmet, the regular mouse helmet, and the shield, all of those parts unpainted, I think are $50. Online, you're going to be able to buy them separately. So if you don't want both heads and you just want one of the heads, you can buy them all the parts separately and you'll save a few bucks. If you bought everything separately, it's cheaper to buy the full kit. But if you just wanted one of the heads, say you didn't want to do the little build, you didn't want the little legs, the little feet and hands, you just wanted one of the heads, say you just wanted the knight helmet for something else, those will be available separately as well. And I think they're probably 15. Awesome, Chris. Awesome. All right. One more thing to share with you. So when I created the mice, I also said they need a villain. They need someone to fight, right? This was a part that I wanted to have out for Legions Con. However, it's not ready yet. I know I've said this a few times, but it's super important. We don't want to release anything until it's ready to go. It's got to meet our standards. I hope to have some of these on display to show at the show, but I did want to tease it here today. At the same time that we did the mice, we also decided to do some weasels. So these are actually going to be the villains for the mouse story. And we've got the basic weasel head, and we also have a weasel head wearing a skull helmet. The idea of a character wearing a skull helmet is something I've done a few times now, and I totally admit it's cheesy, and I've gone to that well a few times, but I dig it. And I just think it looks cool, and you know what? I'm making these for myself and just thrilled when others enjoy them as well. I wanted a skull helmet. So this is super cool. This is meant to go. Weasels are obviously tall. So this is not something I wanted to go on a this build with the short legs and everything. This is something I wanted to go on a regular 2.0 figure, like an elf style figure. Those are not super readily available right now anyway. There is the Steel Knight and the Iron Knight Legion builders that are available at Big Bad Toy Store, but that was another reason I wasn't super like anxious to get this out immediately, because I do want to hold it back until I can show you, like, hey, this is a base body that's available right now that you can use with this. But because it had to do with the mice kit, I figured I would show this to you tonight. I did hear someone saying that I should have done a cat to be the villain character with the mice. That's a bit on the nose. I did consider it, but the reality is there are so many cats out there already, right? We've already got cats legitimately in the line with Purplor and Kauros and Balam. Saba and Planetary Dog Toys have done a ton of big cat customs, of big cat custom pieces. I've used a number of them. They're gorgeous. The reality is I look at what like Saba has done. I look what the Horsemen have done, and I'm like, I can't improve on that. Like, they've done a great job. I don't feel like there's a gap for cat heads. Even Emil Wickman did a smaller cat head for 2.0 that can be used as a female cat if you want. That's why I elected not to do a cat. I said, well, what other kinds of characters could I do? And I probably just typed in like, critters. I just looked at other animals and I stumbled on a weasel, and I said, you know what? That'll be a lot of fun. I'm going to do a weasel. So a little bit more of a teaser there. Okay, going down. A lot of people loving the weasel. Awesome. Hopefully we'll have him out somewhat soon. So the idea of kits. Now, another kit that I worked on recently that I've shown off is kind of my spider kit, right? So this is another thing that we worked on a little while ago. And one of the things I'm going to show here is how I can plan out these kits and still stuff can be unexpected. There can still be stuff that happens that surprises me. So I'm going to show you a little bit about the spider here. So when I first did the spider, the first thing that I did, and let me find it. And amazingly, I don't seem to have any of the spider images loaded, which is unfortunate. But I will take care of that right now. Spider, spider, spider. Okay. So the first time that I did the spider, I was sketching one afternoon, and I drew up this stuff. So this is something that I've shared before on my Instagram, or at least the first one. I shared a picture of that first spider-like character. That was a sketch that I showed to Walter DeMarco, and I said, hey, I want to do this spider character. And I imagined it could be used on maybe the Taurian body, because Taurian's black. But then I was talking to Len, and Len was like, oh, you know what? It would be really cool on a skeleton body, because skeletons have the really thin limbs. And Len really wanted to dye some skeleton limbs black. And I'm like, that's kind of a cool idea. I've never dyed parts myself yet, but I like the idea of the black thin limbs. So I said, that's a cool idea. The challenge with the spider character that I had to figure out was the arms. So obviously Mythic Legions figures have 2 arms, 2 legs, so 4 appendages, but a spider has 8. So I had to find a way to get 4 other appendages into the design. Now, when I showed the spider previously, a bunch of people pointed out that this is going to work great with the extra arms from Alithia. Totally agree with you. I'm on the same page with you. I love the idea. If you look at the Alithia figure, her back piece has those 4 black skeletal arms. You're going to be able to unplug that, plug that in to the spider parts, and absolutely have some cool extra arms. But in the meantime, I wanted to solve this problem as well. So I didn't want to do really crazy arms. I wanted to just do arms that were almost like, it was almost like nature and evolution over time had made it so these arms really weren't necessary anymore. I believe the word is called like vestigial arms or vestigial appendages. they were still there, but they didn't really serve the purpose they once did. So I wanted them to be really, really small, kind of come around the torso, almost like looking like a rib cage coming around the torso, plugging in to the back ports of the figure. So that middle sketch you see here is a really bad sketch, but I'm not trying to win an art award. I'm trying to convey an idea. So this is the sketch that I did to show Walter, to say, hey, this is how I want this sculpted. This is what I'm picturing. He totally got it. The last one you see there, if you check me out recently, I showed the spider skull. I also said, hey, because we're doing skeletons, Len got me thinking about skeletons. I said, you know what, let's actually do a skeleton at the same time, which was really cool. I wanted it to actually be the same race, but what it would look like as a skeletal version. Simon saying, I would love to see mice compared to ogre scale weasels and larger animals. I didn't imagine doing the weasel ogre. I do have some actual, the first prints that we did of the weasels were too big, and they actually fit on dwarf bodies. And it's really hard because they look super cool on a dwarf body, but they don't make any sense because weasels are not short and stocky. They're tall and they're long. So the weasel heads on a dwarf body literally don't make any sense, but look super cool. Back to the spider. So these were some of the sketches that I showed Walter here. And then I'll show you how it actually looks. So this is the build of the spider that I imagined. And if you follow my Instagram, you probably saw that I did, when I first got this head, I imagined doing this custom. But the first thing I saw, for whatever reason, I've seen something recently about Mothman, and I saw this head and I got it in my brain that I wanted to make a Mothman custom. And that's exactly what I did. You know what? Let me see. I'll actually bring that up as well. I didn't have that prepared for the night, but it's relevant to the conversation. So let me show it to you. As soon as I got that head, I thought of this here. So let me stop sharing that for a moment and share this one. So this is the Mothman custom that I did. And you can see it's that spider head. What I did was I didn't paint the top eyes. I just painted those two big eyes, that really, really bright red, glossed them all up. Loved how that looked. And that's part of what I want to talk about here. Is one of the great things about these kits. I mentioned that I love it when people do unexpected things with them. I love doing it as well. I love kind of thinking outside of the original design scheme I had in mind for it to come up with different ideas. The Mothman is totally an example of that. But back to the actual build that I had imagined. This is an example of the small arms that I pictured there, just kind of coming around the body. And I will take this down for a minute. You can see this is where they plug in. So they plug in right to the back and they just come right underneath the arms, right around to the front. Now, this figure that I'm showing it on, talking about custom kits, this is literally a skeleton Legion builder. That is all this is. I got a skeleton Legion builder. I popped it apart with hot water. Put it aside. I took the bones. So now the upper legs, for the arms, these pieces of armor on the arms, they're literally just pegged in with a little bit of glue. You can pull them right out. Okay, they pop right out. You can't use the arms without them in because there's literally an indentation that looks silly. If you wanted to do it, you just have to get some sculpting compound and kind of cover over it, smooth it down, and then paint. I've done this before, and it will look like a bare skeleton arm. But if you don't want to do that, just carefully pop it off, put it aside. You can paint the arm, then get a little bit of super glue, pop it right back on, and no one will never know. So I painted all of the limbs black, right? For the actual armor, what I did, one of the things I love doing with Legion builders, and it's a great thing if you're new to customizing, it's a great thing to do, is grab a Legion builder and compare it to a regular edition figure. They're literally the same body parts. all the same sculptural pieces, just the only difference is the level of paint details. So look at what a regular one looks like, and you can do that to the Legion Builder. If you notice and it's a little dark here, but what I did was all of you know what, it'll probably be easier if I do this. What I did here is those details on his chest there, all of those kind of, sculptural elements of the armor, I just hit those with a little bit of a darker gray just to kind of bring out the detail a little bit. Super, super simple to do. What I did here, this piece that you see here on the gauntlet, I just painted that with that same gray. I just painted this piece here. These are all areas that were unpainted in the Legion Builder itself. That little bit of extra paint absolutely goes a long way. Now, this is a super easy build to do. After I spray painted all of the parts black, including the head in those arms, it's a little bit of, big surprise, dry brushing. A little bit of dark gray dry brushing. The fur-like details in that head, the brush just loves it. Absolutely loves that. Picks up all those details and looks great. The last thing I did was I painted those eyes. So I just painted those eyes with some black paint. And then here's the trick, right? This, I love, love, love this. This stuff right here. This Model Masters. This is Model Masters Gloss Clear. I got this on Amazon. This was a tip that I got from Nikki Nicole Cheney. This is the secret sauce right here. Okay. And I did a whole video all about getting the wet look on things, where this is what I'm talking about, but I'll reiterate it here as well. Let the paints dry. Give it 24 hours to dry. Once it's dry, I have a brush I use only for this. You open this up and it's super, super liquidy. It's kind of like the consistency, I'll be honest with you, it's kind of the consistency of phlegm. Okay, it's kind of nasty looking. You paint that very lightly onto whatever you want to gloss up. And at first, it's going to freak you out because it goes on kind of whitish. And you're going to be like, oh no, did I just screw this up? But it dries super, super clear, but very, very shiny. So you can totally use a flat paint on the rest of the figure. I don't want his fur to be shiny, so I can't use like a gloss top coat that I spray, but using that gloss little bit on his eyes, on those horns, on his mandible type things, it brings that out in a way that is incredible. The Mothman that I showed a few minutes ago that had those two like red shiny eyes, they almost looked like candies stuck into his face. They were so shiny. Exact same thing. I used some paint. After the paint was nice and dry, I used this gloss coat. It is absolutely a game changer. So did that kit, and again, super, super easy to do. It's got the head, it's got the arms, not a lot of pieces, nowhere near as many pieces as the mouse, but I think totally works for what I want. That being said, I like the look of the tiny little arms, but I knew other people were going to be like, oh, that's not how I picture a spider character to look. I feel that it should have really crazy looking arms like what we see here. So we took that same sculpture and made an alternate version of them that are really, really large. And I'll pop this off for a moment and I'll show you. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to pop out this. So just that little peg's right in the back. I'll pop that out and you can see the difference in size. This is the small one. This is the big one. So, I mean, it is significantly, significantly larger. And what these do is you peg them right into the back here. And you get that really big, crazy look. Undo this. So giving people some variety. These are a super fun one to paint. Skeleton Legion builders, totally available right now. Little more work on this if you want to paint all of those bony pieces to be black to work with the spider, but super, super fun. And now I did something else today. I had an extra piece lying around, and I actually had a different set of arms. As we were trying out the different sizes, we tried a few different things. We actually tried one between these two sizes. I had them laying around, and I happen to have a scaphoid figure, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to paint one. So I just did this just to have some fun with, but I think it's super, super cool. I really dug this guy here. I haven't shown him before today. Just matching the scaphoid colors. I actually considered, I have a purpler in my box as well. I almost painted him purple to kind of do a version of Webstore from Masters of the Universe. I think he would work really, really well for that. But I really just wanted to do this kind of poison looking spider. And you can see these are actually a different arm size. I haven't decided what I'm doing with this guy yet, but I will give you a little peek. There's a really good chance he's going to be on my table at Legion's Con for sale. I really think this is a one-off. I painted this head and these arms just to see how they would look. I don't know that I need it in my collection because I do have a limited amount of room. So this guy is probably coming for sale to Legion's Con. The plan, by the way, at Legion's Con is that I will have all the mouse parts available, but I will also have hopefully a couple complete mouse night customs that if someone just wants to buy the full in-package custom, they can do that as well. The spider parts will be available at Wolf King Customs table. One more kit to show you, and this is one I have not shown anywhere yet. Super excited to show you this crazy, crazy thing. Before I do so, let me just check out some of my questions. Eric's saying, already thinking how to incorporate a posable tail with the mouse kit. Yeah, I consider doing a tail. I've done rat customs before using Lee Robinson's heads. And for those, I took a page out of Zombie 13's book where I just got like a rubber rat Halloween, decoration, cut the tail and just threw it on there. For these, I decided not to go with a tail. I really like the fact that Len recently said that he imagines that the farmer's wife cut all their tails off with a carving knife. So that's what I'm going with. They don't have tails because they've all been cut off with a carving knife. There we go. Joe saying dwarf weasels, bring on the dweezels. Okay, Joe, I am gonna have to paint up that dwarf sized Weasel to make a dweezil. I like that name. That's funny. Victor saying, I'm not a fan of spiders, but I love that spider head. Victor, the amount of people that have said that comment to me that said spiders freak me out. There's another one in here. Spiders freak me out. Trent's is saying it. But a lot of people have said they really, really dig them. Absolutely. Fat weasels, untapped market. Wonder if the spider head will fit on the Sphexian bodies. It will, because they're made for 1.0 bodies and the Sphexians are 1.0. I don't know exactly what the neck port looks like on the Sphexian, so there may be some clearance issues. I don't have that piece in hand to actually tell you, but connection-wise, they definitely will fit. Okay, so the last one that I have to show, I got this idea a few months ago. I wanted to make something super weird that nobody else would do. And there's a lot of artists working in this space right now, which is a great thing. It is awesome to see all of the creativity coming out of the different shops, the different artists. I absolutely love that. But as a creator, there are absolutely times where you see parts that either you may have been working on and then someone gets it out first, and that's a bit deflating. I just mentioned that these mice parts we started working on a year ago. Thankfully, nobody else did what we had in mind. Nobody did this idea of little feet plugging into the knees. But someone could have launched that, a month ago, and it would have been a year worth of work down the drain. Because you have to decide for yourself, do I want to follow up and do something similar, or do I want to scrap this idea? And that's something, I mean, admittedly, there are ideas, there are pieces that we've worked on at various stages that we've kind of put to bed because there was something else out there that we thought was too similar. That someone, they may not have worked on it before we did, but they got it out before we did, and we had never shown ours. So we were like, oh, that stinks. Other times there are people that, I don't know, they're inspired by things they see and they do something similar. Again, it's all part of the community, for better or worse. However, I wanted to create something that I'm like, nobody's going to do this. I have no worries that someone else is going to come out with this because it is absolutely bizarre. So one day I was sketching on a Sunday afternoon and I was come up with different ideas, and I got it in my head. I was looking at the different figures that are going to be coming out, right? And I like to plan out, when I plan out kits, I want to make sure there's a readily available body. So I was looking at All Stars 4 and I was like, okay, we've got Scaphoid, we've got Tibius, the two skeletons, we've got Sorowane, we've got Vetus, all of these different characters, Vitus, I think it's pronounced, all of these different characters. And I knew there were going to be a lot of parts for them. I planned some out myself. I made that Holy Knight helmet that goes with Owain. But I looked at Bryophytus, the Mothman tribute, and I'm like, what the hell are people going to do with that base body? It is so unique, right? Because it's flocked, it's fuzzy. So I'm like, what are people going to do with this body? It is so specifically that character, and you can't put flocked parts on unflocked parts. It's not going to work. So I imagined a lot of people would display that character as is. That character is supposed to be a Lichen orc. I was like, maybe they'll do a bunch of different Lichen orcs in their display. But I thought to myself, I want to make a custom that goes with that body, and I want it to be freaking weird. So this is the sketch that I did, and I shared this on my Instagram in the Cabal a while. Oh, there it is. That's not what I wanted to show. Oh, I shared the wrong one. Well, you got a momentary peek. But pretend that you didn't see that. Pretend that I showed you this first. So this is what I wanted to share. This is a sketch that I did that I called a Forest Flayer. I got this idea that I wanted to make basically a tree stump type character. And I looked at like tree ants, and I looked at ents, and I looked at twig blights. But I basically wanted to use the Bryophytus body as like just animated vegetation, that this was just animated plant life that was being held together. Like the armor parts were just armor pieces that it had maybe woven through and everything, and it had incorporated into its body. And then there were just these weird different elements, trees and stuff like that. All of the tentacles. I was like, I want to make it look like a mind flayer type character, because people love mind flayers. So I literally said, what would it look like if I combined a tree stump with a mind flayer? And instead of tentacles, it was like thorny, like, not branches, like vines, thorny brines. Patrick Boyle saying a chlorofiend, which apparently is a thing that I've never even heard of. Apparently what I was creating was something that does kind of exist out there in some kind of fantasy. So let me bring up that thing I just showed you a minute ago, and I'll talk you through this crazy Forest Flayer custom kit. So the first thing that we did was the head. So this particular head, I reached out to Tristan from Immortal Collections, who I've worked on with a couple different parts. And I said, Tristan, I have this idea for something called a Forest Flayer. It's a tree stump that's got tentacles. And he was just like, okay, that's very strange. I showed him my sketch. He felt like it had a very Cthulhu, Lovecraftian type look to it. So he dug it, and we started talking about different ideas. The actual tree stump itself, I showed him some pictures that I had actually taken in Yosemite. So when I went to Yosemite and you had seen some of the giant sequoias when they fall, some of the way their branches and the tree roots and everything, the stumps look, that's what I was going for the crown of the head. So I showed him that as well. And he did the head, and I really liked it, but I realized that the head alone didn't make any sense. Putting that head on top of the Bryophytus body, it wasn't enough. So I reached out to Walter from Mass Customs, and I said, Walter, I've already got this head sculpture. This is how I want to use it, but I need some other parts. I need some hands, I need some feet, and I need a back piece. So let me show you some of the other parts, and I can come back here to the Forest Flayer. So I'm not sure what all the different images I have. Okay, so here's a side view you can see. So you can see the hands, and then you can see that back piece and those feet. All of this is just plugged on to the Bryophytus. Now, in this particular build, I did replace his lower legs with dwarf lower legs just because I wanted the actual shape of the figure to be even stranger. That's kind of what I was going for. But it works fine with the regular legs, and I'll show you that in just a moment, actually. I actually have him right here, this crazy looking guy. And you can see he's got just this head that I've plugged right in. Pop it off. There we go. The back piece. So the back piece literally just plugs right into his back, and it just hangs right on his back. And I like that because it just made it look like, you know, this big piece coming off that leads into that crazy looking head. This is a super fun one to paint. I'm actually going to do a painting tutorial on this channel on how to paint these parts. He's got those hands and feet. Let me actually show you. Let me bring up some pictures of those hands and feet. I think the next one I have to show is actually that. So there we go. There's the hands and feet. You can see a better close-up there. And these literally just plug right into the existing ports. Now, the hands themselves, they're not articulated, obviously. So you don't get any kind of wrist movement. They literally just hang there. But what I was going for was I really just wanted this to look like, you know, parts of this trail. I wanted it to look a lot stranger. And I think I accomplished that. I think that this is definitely an unusual, strange character. Jonathan saying, hello, Nightmares. Nice to see you again. Dave Orkin saying, that's one of the craziest ideas I've seen. Dave, that was exactly what I was going for. The reaction you just gave me was exactly what I was hoping for. Star saying, love the look of those tree parts. I'll tell you what, let me bring up another thing here because I think the tree parts look really cool. However, you may not want to do them exactly as is. Check this out. I think this is really cool. You don't have to use that head. Even with the Bryophytus head, I think that looks super cool. It actually reminds me more of the Mothman look from Master of the Universe Revelations, where he's got more kind of like tentacles and like, you know, vines and everything that kind of like shoots out from his hands. Even just using that back piece, those feet and those hands with one of those two Bryophytus heads, I think that's a really cool look. Those hands and feet, by the way, I think will be awesome on Faunus as well. If you've wanted your Faunus figure to have a different look, to have more, because he's got that, obviously that very wood-like head. If you want to upgrade that character with the feet and hands, that's another thing that I think will be super cool to do. Tristan, who I actually owe the work on that head to, worked with him on that, says, looks great all put together. Thank you, Tristan. I wanted to show it to you so badly this week, but I figured you'd enjoy seeing this reveal on the show. Joe says, now you're strutting, Jeremy. Thanks, Joe. Can you dye the flock to match the tree color? I'm not sure what you're saying. I mean, I could just paint the tree parts to match the flock if I really wanted to. I don't know. I don't think the dye, you're not gonna be able to dye the flock because what's gonna happen is to dye anything, you have to put it at a pretty extreme heat. And I think that's gonna ruin the flocking and ruin the figure. I'd love to see a version with the whole body, arms, and legs with a gnarly bark look as well. Yeah, obviously, this is a lot of parts right here. I mean, this comes with this kit. You've got the feet. You got 2 feet, 2 hands, a back piece, and the head, and it's a good sized head and back piece. These parts, and let me bring up some of the other pictures. I'm gonna bring up a few other pictures here. I already showed that one. I think this is the one that I wanted. Nope, showed that one as well. Okay, that's the one it is. So these are the unpainted versions. These are the unpainted parts themselves. So you can see that head, the feet, the hands, the back piece, and then the other one there, that's actually on a taurian body. Worked really well for the pictures because it almost kind of disappears into the background. But you can see just the raw head and back piece, how it fits on, and the silhouette that it actually makes. So all of those parts, these are going to make their debut at Legion's Con, and they're going to be available. These are Legion's shop exclusives. That unpainted kit is $50. So for $50, you get all of those parts, and you can make them look as crazy as you want. To start with, we're only selling them as kits. I will have painted kits as well. We have a limited amount of painted kits at the show, and we have a limited amount of unpainted kits as well, because it's inventory. We're bringing it. There's a limited amount of everything we have. But both painted and unpainted kits will be at Legion's Con first. After Legion's Con, anything that doesn't sell will be available at Legion's shop. Obviously, if we sell out at Legion's Con, then I restock and it will be added to Legion's shop a little bit later. At first, it's only the full kits. We will eventually be offering the individual component pieces. So if you just want the feet or if you just want the hands or whatever, you will be able to get that in the future as well. I'm going to bring up that first one that I showed, which shows really, I think, the best look of the Forest Flayer. There you go. So really, really weird looking thing, but I love the way it came out. It's a joy to paint. It's as detailed as it looks, and when I do the painting tutorial, I'll talk more about this. This is one of the easiest parts you could ever paint. Because it is meant to be wood, it is meant to be, something that's not precise. The level of, the flexibility that you have in the part is so incredibly extreme. You can do so much with it. It's going to look super, super cool. This is a piece that I cannot wait to see some of my fellow customizers get their hands on, to see exactly what they are going to do with the crazy Forest Flayer parts. So very cool. That's a look at some of the new parts that are going to be available at Legion's Con and Legion Shop and Wolf King Customs. Couple questions here. Eric saying, have I tried matching the parts with the faunus head? I haven't yet, only because I've been painting like a madman for Legion's Con, and because they're not being sold in that style at Legion's Con, I frankly couldn't take the time to do that paint match. I will eventually, because I think they look really cool, and I'm going to replace the feet on my faunus with those feet. I might not replace the hands, only because I like faunus holding a magic staff, and those hands clearly are just kind of, they're not going to grip anything. Are there longer arms to simulate branches? Not really. I mean, you could probably get some other pieces and fudge them into the lower arms and plug them in. There's that new figure that is part of the Marvel Legends Eternals wave that's super wacky plant looking. You could probably fudge around with some of that. Simon saying that would make an epic Swamp Thing tribute. Yeah, I see, Simon. I hadn't thought of Swamp Thing at all. Totally not on my radar when I created him, but that's a great idea that you could do with that. Awesome. Thank you for all of the comments. Imagine a blighted version on a scaphoid. Absolutely. Awesome. So that's what I wanted to show tonight. I wanted to share my enthusiasm for these pieces and kind of pull back the veil a little bit to talk a little bit about why we did what we did and what the mentality is. This is something we're going to continue doing. Actually, Joe and I at Legion Shop have some huge plans for 2022 for figure kits, specifically for parts that are going to be used or usable, I should say, with some figures that are going to be coming out, that are going to be available, some kits that you can buy painted or unpainted, plug them right onto those base bodies and have yourself a totally distinct new character. At the same time, any customizer can use those parts to kind of mix and match and do what they want to as well. So this idea of kits is something I absolutely love. I think that it works great for seasoned customizers who want to do their own thing, but I think that it brings new customizers into the wave. The amount of people that have never customized, that bought a Kitsune head, that bought a Kitsune tail and plugged them into a ranger or on a goblin or whatever, there's a lot of non-customizers that bought those parts. That is great because that gets them excited. That gives them the bug. That gives them something in their collection that they can't just pre-order from the line itself. It expands their enjoyment of the line. That is absolutely my mission, to help people have more fun with this line. Everything I do is about that. This show, all the work I do with Four Horsemen, Legion's Con, Legion Shop. It is all about me sharing my love for the line with you and hoping that some of it rubs off and you can experience this as well. So this idea of kits is something that I'm excited about. Hopefully you are excited as well. Once again, all of these will be appearing at Legion's Con, Legion Shop, and or Wolf King Customs. Thank you for everyone that digs these, that commented on my post this week, that shared my post this week, and everyone that's going to either be buying them at Legion's Con or placing an order online for them. Thank you so, so much. I got to tell you, when I posted the mouse parts, I mentioned that I was more excited for these pieces than anything I had done since the Kitsune. And now that I've started to play with them and paint them and do alternate versions outside of the one I'm showing here, I'm absolutely in love with these parts. I think you will be as well. With that, I've got a few more minutes before I turn off for the night. So I'm happy to answer any questions, or I shouldn't say any questions. I'm happy to answer some questions that you may have, whether it's about the stuff we've looked at tonight, whether it's about Legion's Con, G-Con, Mythic Weekend, something totally unrelated. Hit me up in the chat. Let's talk about it. Chris says, thank you for what you do. You're very welcome, Chris. I appreciate you, your enthusiasm as well and your support for the show. So really excited. I can't wait. I mean, can you believe? So a week from now, going to be all getting ready, all happening. Very, very excited for that. Don't know what to expect. It's kind of nerves as well. I'm getting a little nervous. Oh, one thing I will mention, Legion Shop is always open, right? We don't do pre-orders. Legion Shop, except for figures, like Mythic Legion, the Cosmic Legions figures, those are pre-order. But the actual parts are all in stock. Legion Shop will be closing temporarily this Saturday. I've got to close at some point because a lot of that inventory is coming to New Jersey for Legion's Con. I cannot leave the store running because that inventory will be with me physically in New Jersey. Additionally, I will be in New Jersey, not here, to help fill orders. So if you do want something that you see on Legion Shop, it might be with me in New Jersey at Legion's Con if you can wait, but there's no guarantee. So if you see it on Legion Shop and you do want it, Saturday afternoon is when I'm cutting everything off, turning off orders, make sure everything is fulfilled up until that point so I can get ready. I will put it back live probably the Monday after Legion's Con. So Legion's Con is on November 14th. On November 15th, I will re-inventory everything that comes back. Any of the new show debuts like the Forest Flayer that doesn't sell out at the show will immediately be added to Legion's Con in limited numbers. If stuff does sell out at Legion's Con, I will immediately start the restock process and it will be added a little bit later. Okay, let's see what we got here. Nate's saying, awesome work. Your passion and creativity is infectious. That's the goal, man. That's absolutely the goal. And I said to this people last week, if you are at Legion's Con or Toy Con and you see me there, please introduce yourself. Tell me who you are. I want to talk to you. I'm literally there to meet fans and meet you and talk Legion. So I may look busy. I probably am really busy. It doesn't mean I'm too busy to have time with you. Hopefully, as Nate said, my enthusiasm is infectious and it's rubbing off on you and you're going to get excited for this weekend. Let's see. David saying, can't wait. I agree, David. I cannot wait at all. Is there something I'm looking to get at Legion's Con, a toy or something? I'm probably going to pick up, hopefully All-Stars 4 is available. I probably will pick up at least one extra Bryophytus because I realized I didn't order. When I ordered them, I didn't have this idea in mind. So now, honestly, I saw how cool he looks with the new parts and the Bryophytus head, and I kind of decided I wanted to do a couple like Lichen Orcs. So I might get a few of those. Outside of Legions, I'm pretty cool with Legions. I don't think, Greg, there's anything specifically that I'm going for that I'm specifically like I'm there to buy that. If I saw a Hot Toys toy color, it's hard to say, a Hot Toys vintage toy color Boba Fett for a not crazy price, I would probably buy that, but I doubt that I'm going to see that. I don't know. Outside of that, I mean, I'm always looking for loose fodder parts. If I see some cool Spawn figures or something that I can tear apart, I might get those. But actual things to add to my collection, nothing immediately comes to mind. Josh saying, with the limited grip on the mice, have you thought about creating weapons for them? I have not, Josh. I may do that. I really had the dagger in mind. And you can see this dagger on this one. It actually does have the hilt still. I was just very, very careful doing it. But I also had extras if I broke it. So, but that's the whole thing that I said. If you break that little ball at the bottom off, you never even really notice it's missing, and it will legit slide right in. So in terms of making other weapons, the reason I would be hesitant outside of the shield, we obviously did the shield, is the weapons will be so darn small that it's going to be hard to sell them. Like, for instance, on Wolf King Customs, they do those little daggers. The reason they sell them in a pack of 3 is it's 3 daggers for $6 because it's not worth selling one for $2. It just makes no sense to do that. So that's one of the reasons I'm a little hesitant to do weapons for them, is they would be so tiny. And ultimately, I really like how the little dagger looks because it looks like a little sword. It's so cute. I think the mice are the right amount of cute and awesome. I'm one of those non-customizers who's getting hyped, Jeremy. Dude, I'm telling you, Mickey, if you follow my tutorials, if you reach out to me directly, if you're like, hey, how do I get started? I've got videos to help you with that. I will point you in the direction of some parts that are super easy to paint. I'm telling you, I've heard this story over and over and over from Legions fans that they're afraid to start painting. They follow my instructions. They start with an easier project. And as soon as they're done and they see how cool it looks, they're hooked. They've got the bug and they're like, this was so exciting. This was so rewarding. I want to do more. So hopefully, Mickey, you'll be my next convert. Tristan from Immortal saying, I'm so nervous for Legion's Con. Dude, I hear you. I'm excited and nervous as well. Yes, hopefully you have a good crew running the table at Legion's Con. Maybe someone ruggedly handsome. Yes, absolutely. So at Legion's Con, I will not be behind the Legion shop table because I'm going to be behind my table, the Mythic Customs table. So at my table, I'm going to have a whole bunch of figures on display that are not for sale. They're just there. So if you've ever wanted to see my work in person, I'm going to have 3 glass cases of them, not these types of cases, 3 glass boxes with those figures. I will have a whole bunch of parts that I painted. I mentioned this before, like B grade parts that I can't sell normally that are going to be there for a variety of prices. I'm also going to have a handful of full custom figures available. Like I said, I think I'm going to bring this crazy guy. I don't know. He looks super cool. He may not come because he may grow on me, and I may decide that I don't want to get rid of him, but who knows? I'm going to have a whole bunch of customs there. So I'm going to be behind my table. So the Legion Shop table is going to be run by my good friend, Anthony Houseal. He's going to be doing double duty at the Toy Forge table and Legion Shop. Obviously, they're side by side. Also, my little mini-me, my son, Jacob, if you've been out, he came out in May to ToyCon and you hung out with us, you probably met my son, Jacob. He's going to be there as well behind the table. Star saying, are you stirring up any ideas for custom Cosmic Legions from what you've seen so far? I mean, the spider skull that I did, I think is a perfect Cosmic Legion's head. We still got a ways before Cosmic's going to be in hand. So I've started to think of things. There are projects that are brewing, but ultimately I've got unreleased parts. I've probably got 10 pieces that haven't seen the light of day yet that are done. They're like legit done. And then we've got probably another dozen that are, and this is just my parts, my designs, that are in various stages of completion. A lot of those are meant for figures that are going to be coming well before Cosmic. So right now, that's more of my focus. But before you know it, Cosmic will be on my plate. Joe saying he won't be there, Jeremy. I'm not sure. Oh, I know you're saying that my spider won't make it. Yeah, he probably won't. Stop it, Joe. Don't make me keep it. Guillermo, I like how you looked at the mouse and smiled. Storming Nerd, will we see a mouse tail? I was mentioning earlier, to me, the easiest way to get a mouse tail is to buy a cheap Halloween decoration of like a rat and just cut the tail and just plug it into the boom boom port on there with a little bit of glue. That's the easiest way to get a tail. I really feel that a tail would need to be flexible. You know, you want it to be kind of rubbery. We're not going to be able to produce that effectively with the printers and with resin. So personally, in my head canon, I mentioned earlier, they don't have tails because they were all cut off by, with a carving knife. The farmer's wife. I have to sing the little like not fairy tale. What would that be called? Nursery rhyme. I had to sing the nursery rhyme in my head. I imagine all of the mouse's tails were cut off by the farmer's wife with a carving knife. Thank you to Len for that. But if you really, really want a tail, that is my suggestion: is buy a cheap Halloween. Go to Amazon, buy a cheap Halloween decoration rubber rat, cut the tail off, paint it gray, and glue it on. Simon, do I think any of the custom vendors will get into mount and steed customs? I could see them doing heads. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, obviously, Strupp Family Crafts did the awesome horse caparison that they did. I've seen Max Bird do a horse caparison and some horse armor as well. But as far as other add-on parts for those characters, I will tell you that I have an idea for a custom horse-ish character in mind, but I haven't seen the right base body for it yet, so I keep putting it aside. At some point, I'm going to do it. Absolutely. No, my son, Star, does not customize at all. My daughter is probably my daughter's more the artistic one than my son is. My son loves Mythic Legions. He's got a ton of them. He's done like a few pop and swap type things, but he does not follow in my footsteps with the customizing. So Joe saying worm lure with wire in it for a tail. That would worm lure. Yeah, that would work really, really well too. Plastic fishing worm for tails. Star is saying that. Absolutely. Yeah. Very, very cool. So with that, uh, just as I was about to say, I'm going to call it a night. I got another question. McFly is saying, I really love the armored Vetus. I got to think of the name. The armored Vetus with the Magnus parts. I can't wait till All Stars 4 gets delivered. Yeah, that ended up being something I really liked. It's funny, when I did it, I put the pauldrons on, the Magnus pauldrons. I've since removed them. I actually like it even better without the pauldrons. The pauldrons have the black in them, and it introduced the black color into the body, and there really was nothing else in the body that was black. So I ended up not really liking that color, but I actually, where is it? It's right over here. So what he's referring to is the live stream that I did the other day, the kind of LBC, what am I doing? The LBC kind of little kit bash custom that I did during that show was this character here, where I combined the armored upper arms and legs of a Magnus with all of the parts from a Vetus. I really, really like how that looks. This one's actually holding another custom piece. This is the a new Horseman's axe that Len from Wolf King Customs did. It's got a cool like clip on the side. It's like based on a historical axe, so you can put it on kind of like the saddle piece of the horse and everything. That's actually going to be at Legions Con too. But this build, yeah, I really dig that as well. Super, super easy to do. Yeah, Lewis saying Iron Man. I actually years ago saw someone do this combination, but it wasn't with a Magnus. It was with a Gold Knight Legion builder, but super same principle. I mean, these particular parts have a little more color than the Gold Knight Legion builder did, specifically like the silver of the chainmail type areas. But that, I always thought that looked cool. The reddish armor of Vetus with the gold arms and legs. So when I realized that Vetus was being re-released in All Stars, and I knew I had some extra Magnus figures, that was an easy combination to do. I was thinking about doing a spec scene with our armor, grind away the armor, and sculpt a nude specs. Yeah, I don't know that I would grind away the armor. I think that there will probably be different parts that, you know, customizers. I mean, people do torsos and stuff. I like the idea of an unarmored Sphexian. I think that's really, really cool. One of the things that I always wonder with the Sphexians is whether or not they have legs inside those legs. Like, is that, think about it, because they've got like the bug-like tail in the wings. It makes me wonder whether they actually have legs that are in that suit, or if that's more of like a robo suit and those are fully robotic legs. Or if they didn't have the armor on, would they actually have no legs? Would they just have those little appendages and that big tail plus the wings? So something to think about. I think that's a cool thing to think about if you are thinking about an unarmored Sphexian. But with that, I am going to call it an evening. We've got a ton of stuff to do. After I sign off, I've actually got to go back in the back room to paint some more parts to get ready for Legions Con, because time is ticking. One more week. I will be back here next week. It will be the same time, same Mythic time, same Mythic channel, but a different Mythic location, because instead of seeing all of this, we'll be seeing Four Horsemen Studios. I will be there with, frankly, I don't know who. I don't know who will be in the studio at that time. Certainly, there's going to be some last-minute preparations as we get ready for Mythic Weekend. But if you join me next week, it'll be a great way, I think, to kick off the Mythic Weekend festivities. And of course, if you can't make it out to New Jersey next week, if you can, I look forward to seeing you. If you can't, stay tuned to my channel, because in addition to the Four Horsemen's broadcast on Friday for G-Con, on Saturday, on Sunday, I'm going to do my part to try to do some live broadcasting to try to bring some of G-Con and G-Con will be to you already, to bring some of ToyCon and Legions Con to all of you that can't make it. So time permitting, I can't do it all day, but I will do what I can to give you some content. Thank you all very much for joining. Thank you for your enthusiasm for my parts and my work. I can't wait to talk to you next week. It's going to be a great conversation.